Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel, Unwind and Knit with me. My name is Lisa and I'm coming to you from Christchurch, which is the South Island of New Zealand. And this is my little place, my little part of the internet world where I share with you my knitting journey, yarn, patterns, everything knitting related. So if you are an existing viewer to my channel, welcome back and thank you. Please hit the like button, that always helps. But if you are new to my channel, welcome. Please subscribe. I really hope you enjoy the content. Feel free to leave any comments below, but welcome. Today is Friday the 2nd of February and I can't believe that we're already into the second month. It's just flown by. Just a few admin things. Everything I talk about in relation to yarn and patterns, podcasts, books, anything I discuss, I leave the links below in my show notes, so you can always go back and refer to show notes. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, Unwind and Knit. And I also have a community Facebook group. So if you haven't already joined that group, feel free to pop over and join that group. It's just a nice, safe little place where we can share with each other what we're knitting. I really love seeing what other people are doing. I always figure that you get to see what I'm doing and I share with you what I'm doing. So I really get joy out of seeing what other people are knitting, especially when they've been inspired by what I've done. I get a real kick out of it. It's a really nice wee Facebook group. I also have an online store and a website, Unwind and Knit, and from there you can also subscribe to my newsletter. I don't send out a lot of newsletters, so feel free to join that knowing that I'm not going to fill your inbox with lots and lots of emails. I just send maybe one a month when I have something new that I want to share. So that's my newsletter. I want to say a big thank you to everybody that does support my online shop and has purchased from me. A big thank you. It really means a lot. Also with my online store, I've recently added Afterpay to the checkout facility. I don't know a lot about Afterpay. I don't use it, but I do have social media IT people that said it should be there because lots of people use it. I think it's the younger generation use it a lot. So that is also available. So that is a lot of the admin-y things. I wanted to podcast today, but I was a little bit torn because I don't feel I've got a lot of new content to show you. I have got an FO and I've got my whips, but I haven't done as much knitting as I normally would, and that's because it's been really hot here. So here in the Southern Hemisphere, we're in the middle of our summer, and we've had lovely weather, but we've had a lot of days that have been 30+ degrees. And my house gets really quite warm and it locks the heat in, which is wonderful in the winter. But it does get quite hot and I don't like knitting when I'm hot and sweaty. But then I'm also torn because I love summer and I love the heat and I love being in shorts and being out in the garden. But to knit, I really need the air conditioning on, and I don't like putting the air conditioning on. And I think our winters for me always seem so long that I count the days until summer comes. So the last thing I want to do is be in the middle of summer and have my aircon on. So I haven't knitted a lot, but I did want to come. It's been a few weeks, so I did want to come and share with you what I have done. I have been watching other podcasts from Canada and the States, and you guys are having an amazing winter. You're having snow. It's my dream to actually spend a Christmas or a January, February in Canada, so I get to experience that snow. But we always want what we haven't got, right? You're probably sitting over there in the Northern Hemisphere going, oh, you're so lucky you got summer. But yeah, so I haven't done a lot of knitting, not as much as I would normally do. And if you were with me on my last podcast, I shared with you that I had renovations done on the outside of my house. And my last podcast, my house, all my windows were covered in plastic and there was scaffolding around the whole house. So that kind of put me out of sync as well. It's renovations are never, I mean, it was really good and the outcome is really good, but I don't like living through renovations, but it's all done now. So that's really, really nice. So that actually did take up a lot of my time and focus as well. But yeah, let's get into the knitting. I've talked about the weather, I've talked about my renovations, so let's get into some knitting. So my finished object is also what I'm wearing. And I have done a wee video. It's not great, I hate doing videos of myself, but I will insert the video so you can see it completed, me wearing it. But it is a Ranunculus, Ranunculi. It's a Ranunculus by Midori Hirose, and there's a pattern there. And this pattern, I think, is one of the world's most sold patterns and most knitted patterns. It's just an amazing pattern. If you haven't done one yet, you should. This is my third one. My first one I did in DK. My second one I did in a fingeringweight, and this has been done in a very fine mohair. Let me get the ball band. So it's a 60% kid mohair, 40% silk, and it's a lace weight. And the first thing I'll say about it, it's lace weight, and I did it on a 6mm needle, so it's really fine and airy. And as I was knitting it, one of my biggest struggles was, what am I going to wear under it? I'm going to need to wear a camisole under it because it's going to be very see-through. Well, you'll see by the video, it's actually not see-through, and I don't need to wear anything under it, and it's just feels so light and airy, and it's just beautiful. So this yarn that I did it in is Artyarns, and it's from Canada. That's the ball band there. Mohair ombre 2-ply, and this was a gift by a friend of mine that is from Canada and went home and then came. She lives here now, and she bought me one skein of this beautiful ombre mohair. And I didn't want to do a shawl or anything, that I don't wear a lot of shawls. And this was just the perfect pattern for it. But I wasn't sure on like lace weight, like on a 6mm needle, but it is beautiful. I am going to, before I go on and talk about it anymore, I will insert the video so that you can see it, because there's a lot of change and shift in the colour. This yarn has been hand painted. So it really shifts in colour. So I will insert that video right now. A very awkward video. No, I often get my daughter to do those videos, but she's left home, although I'm sure she is calling in later today. She does pop in quite a lot, but yeah, sorry about that. It wasn't the best video, but you got to see it, and yeah, thank you. I hope you liked it. But so let me talk about what I did. I did the option for the wider neckline. There are two options, a more closed or a wide. I did the wide. I started off with, I used 10cm tips, I used chalgu, and I used the 20cm cable, which gave me a circumference of 40 centimeters. And I did it exactly to pattern. And then when I got further down the lace work, I put a larger, I think I put the 55cm cable on. But I used 6mm needles all the way down, right down to the hem, where I then changed to a 5mm. and the hem was a twisted rib, which I really like, and that was an 8 centimetre hem that I did. So everything was exactly to pattern. I did no modifications at all. I did the size 5. I wanted it roomy and light and drapey. I probably could have got away with the 4. I am normally about a size 4, but I went up a size. I'm not disappointed, but I probably could have got away with doing the 4. And how many meters was on here? Let me tell you. This one skein was 567 meters, and I still have some left. I didn't weigh it. I should have. But you could do this in, I sell the silk mohair in 50 grams, which is 400 meters. You could do this in 2 skeins, a short sleeve. I really wanted to use the whole ball because, as you saw, the colour shifted. But I really did as long as I was comfortable with. So I have got a wee bit left over. And I just loved it. Thank you so much to my friend who gifted that to me. I'm thrilled with it, and I just feel quite privileged to have been able to use it. I will tell you, the cast on was a cast on I've never done before, and it's called a double twist loop cast on. I did have to follow the tutorial, and I liked that cast on because you cast on straight from the ball of wool. You know, often when you cast on, you have to measure out how much you're going to need because you knit in from 2 ends. With this one, you just knit in straight from the ball, so you don't have to worry about that, calculating how much yarn you're going to need to cast on. And the other thing I'll say about this pattern is the tutorials are really, really good. Now, the tutorials are found under Ravelry. So if you're knitting this, go into Ravelry and bring up the pattern, and then there's tutorials. And she actually, say, each panel here she calls section 1, section 2, section 3. And for each technique, it'll have section 1, row 4. I'm just guessing here, or section 2, row 16, and that will give you the tutorial on how to do that row. I'm talking about rows where there's lace work. They're really, really good tutorials. So if you haven't done one, you really should. So follow the tutorials, pick what yarn you want to do it in. I was talking to friends at Knit Group the other day, and she said to me, Lisa, I don't understand how you can do the same size and the same size needles and get a fitted result out of DK, fingering or lace. That's what's so amazing about the pattern, is you actually can. The only thing that is different is the fabric that you're creating. So this is a really light, loose, airy fabric, where if you did a DK, it's the same size, but it's a lot denser fabric. I hope that makes sense. And that's probably all I've got to say about it. There's not much to say because I didn't do any modifications. You don't really need to do modifications. Just read through the pattern, and it's beautiful. So if you haven't yet done a ranunculus, you need to. So I'll put that aside. So that is a finished object. I did wet block it, and it just made the lace work pop. Is it the right word? I'm really struggling with my words today. So that is my finished object, and believe it or not, I've only been working on 2 projects, and that was this, and I finished this 2 days ago, and I wet blocked it yesterday, so it was ready for today. And this one that you can see here behind me, which I have done quite a lot of work on. It is a DK garment, and it's heavy, and I can really only work on it at night. I just get too hot working on it during the day. So There has been the odd day where I did weaken and put the air conditioner on so I could sit and knit for a couple of hours. But let's talk about this work in progress. I'll just get my notes. Okay, so last year I discovered and fell in love with Thea Colman, and I did purchase quite a few of her patterns that I want to work on. This one is the first one I'm working on, and it's called Widow's Kiss. So there's the pattern there. Now the yarn I have chosen, the yarn that she has used is quite a rustic, woolly, toothy sort of yarn. And I loved it. I love the look of it. So the yarn that I've chosen, and it actually looks quite dark there, but it's the Appledore DK, and the colour is called Payhembury, and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. I've talked about this yarn quite a bit. I did Andrea Mowry's Winter Beach Cardi in this yarn. And what I'll say about this yarn, it is a little bit toothy. For some people close to skin, it's probably quite scratchy. It is probably designed more for outerwear, and I probably will have to wear a singlet or a camisole under it. But if you're doing anything with cables, this yarn, it's just perfect. And in my Winter Beach Cardi by Andrea Mowry, there's a lot of cable and moss stitch, and it just wears so well. It doesn't grow, it doesn't go out of shape, and it just holds the cabling pattern really, really well. You can see it there. So I've popped it on Dolly, on my mannequin here, and the cable is quite small. Where I'm up to is actually probably still I'm down here. I still have quite a few inches before I start doing the neckline. So that's probably why it looks quite short. So this part here should be down here. This has been worked from the bottom up, and what I have to say, all the knitting that I've done, I don't do bottom up. I have hardly done any bottom up, and I really, the construction has been out of my comfort zone. I've sort of second questioned things because I'm thinking, I don't know, that just doesn't look right, but it is right. So you do your sleeves first, then you work on the body, then you join the sleeves. I mean, of course, it's a beautiful construction, but it's not a construction that I have done much. Of course, I will do more, but I have had to read the pattern, and I've had to read forward, so I do recommend that you do that. It is a very well written pattern, and she does outline each section really clearly. But I'm really happy to be doing something different. Always in knitting, for me anyway, I always try to challenge myself and try different techniques and different things. And so doing a garment like this bottom up is a bit different. Although in saying that, Andrea Mowry's Winter Beach Cardi was bottom up, but it wasn't in the round, of course, because it was a cardigan. But I'm really, really happy with it. What can I tell? I should tell you a few things about it. So once again, I've done the size 5, and it is going to be quite boxy, which I'm really happy with. I don't want it tight fitting for the fact that the yarn is a little bit of a scratchy yarn, so I don't want it really close to my body. I did a circular tubular cast on for the 1x1 rib on the sleeves as well. So that was, it wasn't challenging, but I did have to follow the tutorials for that. And there's nothing, I'm actually doing it exactly the pattern I'm using. I did do a gauge swatch, and I did get gauge using the recommended needle size. So the body's actually done all on a 4mm, and the ribbon's done on a 3.5, and I just love it. It isn't it's not what I would call TV knitting. It is a pattern that I have to follow the graph row by row, and there's a lot of cable, So you do have to concentrate and count your stitches. I do put stitch, I don't know if you can see up there. No, you can't. I do put stitch markers in for every pattern repeat, which helps. But yeah, I'm pretty close to having it finished, and I know that by the time I see you again on my next podcast, it will be a finished object. On the sides there is it's garter stitch. You see that here? No, you can't really see it. So the side panels are garter stitch, and then there is 3 stitch ribbing down the side there. So it's just beautiful. It's something that I'm really looking forward to wearing in the winter. I would wear this with a maxi skirt or with my jeans. But if you haven't already, check out Thea Colman. A lot of her patterns I found are in DK or worsted, and that's probably because she lives in a colder climate than we do. But I did find a couple that were in fingeringweight yarn, which suits me for the climate we have here. And one of my next cast-ons, which I'm going to show you, is another Thea Colman, and it's in fingeringweight yarn in 4-ply. But I don't need to turn around. I'm really, really happy with it. So that's Widow's Kiss by Thea Colman. They're the only 2 whips that I've been working on. I do have other whips that have kind of sitting on my shelf that do need to see the light of day, and I probably will bring 1 or 2 of them out. I haven't cast on anything new since I saw you last, and that's not like me. When I saw you last, I did have plans to cast on a new pair of socks and 2 other garments, which I will talk about again today, but I didn't get to cast them on. So, like I said, renovations, hot weather, I just didn't cast on anything new. But I will just put this away and I'll show you what I'm about to cast on as soon as I finish this. Okay, I've got 2 garments that I want to cast on probably in the next week. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them because I talked about them in my last podcast. Because in my last podcast, I talked about how I wanted to cast them on, but I just didn't get around to it. Which is why I feel a bit funny about doing this podcast, because I don't feel like I've got a lot of new content. But it has been a couple of weeks, and I did want to come back and say hello. So I do hope you're just sitting back with your knitting and a cup of tea, and you're going to hear me repeat myself. So the next thing I want to cast on, it's called the 9 PM Tank, and it's by Tiffknit, and I think this may be a Canadian designer, and I haven't got a colour picture to show you, but that's it here. And it's I'd call it basic, I don't know, I think it's a wardrobe basic. So it's a wee little tank top, and what I love about these is doesn't matter whether you live in a hot climate or a cold climate, these tops are really wearable because you can wear them as undergarments or outer garments, depending on where you live in the climate. Now, when you look at this pattern, I will leave the link for it on Ravelry, but the last couple of pages, it's all in black and white, so sorry, but the last couple of pages, she shows you here all these test knits. And what I love about this is you can see the same pattern on all different body shapes. There's about 4 pages worth. So I like to see this because it kind of gives you the confidence of like, yeah, I could wear that, because you get to see it on body shapes that may be similar to yours. It's a very size inclusive pattern, which is nice. Now the yarn, she recommends a few brands of yarn, but it has, one of the recommendations is Yarn Modim, and I now stock this Modim, and I love that label. I think it's the cutest label. So Modim is, they call it a sock yarn, but it has no nylon. So it's 100% Portuguese wool, and it's quite a robust breed of breed of sheep. I don't know a lot about the breed of sheep, but it's funny because it's soft to skin, but it is very robust, and like it's very durable, which is why it's suitable for socks. But it's also really economical because these balls have, it's close to 400 meters. I haven't got my glasses on. 385 meters, and they're about $25 or 22, 25, round about there. And I can knit one of these tanks with 2 balls. And I am really, really keen to cast this on. I really want to knit with this wool because it does feel soft to the touch. And it is a non-superwash. But at the same time, it's a sock yarn. So I have been asked, if it hasn't got nylon, how can it be strong? And I think it's the actual breed of sheep, which makes it quite a strong, durable yarn. So that's my next cast on. And I'm going to cast this on. I want it for this summer. I hope to cast it on in the next couple of days. See how busy we get. My daughter's moving flats. She went out flatting a few months ago, and their lease come up and they wanted a new flat. So they're moving into a nice new flat on Saturday. So I think I might get roped in there too. Well, my husband, he's going to help with some of the moving, but I'll probably get roped in to help him with some of the cleaning of the old flat. She hasn't asked me yet, but I can see it coming. But that's my next cast on. And talking about my daughter, I know that it's the sort of pattern that she'll love. I have knitted a tank before. Jessie made, I think it's called a bralette. And she wears that. So I know that she'd love that one as well. So that is my next cast on. And this one also I talked about because I really want to cast it on. So this again is Thea Colman, but this is a fingering weight yarn garment, and it's called Blueberry Vodka Lemonade. Now what I love about this is the wide scoop neck here, but there's 3/4 sleeves, but they're actually balloon sleeves, and I think that's really a really nice detail. Not sure if you can see it here. I love these eyelets detail in the raglan sleeve shaping, and I just know this would be a really wearable piece, especially in our climate, and especially in the change of seasons. It's not too hot, but it's not too cold. I just love the 3/4 sleeve and the wide neck. I really think I would get a lot of wear out of this. Now, the yarn I've chosen, so this is another subject I'm going to talk about at the end, but I've started dyeing yarn. I've become an indie dyer, and I will talk about that a bit more. But I dyed this yarn, and I used the same colours and process. I'll get the other one. On 2 different yarn bases, and I'm learning quite a lot. But these 2 here, believe it or not, are exactly the same formula of dyeing, but this one is on a sock base with 20% nylon, so it's an 80-20. This one is 100% merino, and you get a different look dyeing on merino than you do a sock yarn. With the sock yarn, it really grabs the colour and you get a lot of vibrancy, where with the merino, it's a bit more dulled down and muted. Muted, is that the right word? But I dyed this, and I love it. And it is on my website, but I need to do more. I've probably only got enough to do this for myself, so I'm probably going to pull it off my website for myself, but I will dye some more over the next couple of weeks. The inspiration for this colourway is, I've named it Roaring Meg. So actually I'll talk about that at the end. I'll talk about this pattern. So what can I tell you? I told you all about it actually in my last podcast, but it's a 24 stitch gauge, so 4 ply, 5 ply, fingering weight, sport weight. It is designed to be a boxy, oversized jersey. It has a split hem and the 3/4 sleeves. It's worked in the round top down, which I really like. The yoke is shaped with, so it's a bit of lace work along that raglan line that I showed you. So I'm assuming that feature there, I'm guessing that it's probably done with yarn overs or knit two together to achieve that look. Yeah, so when you get to the bottom, it is a split hem, so then you would work that in the flat back and forwards. But like I said, I think it's a really nice transitional season piece. And I love this colour. So that's the colour that I'm going to do it in. So I will just touch on quickly. So I'm doing some indie dyeing. If you know me or you followed me for a while, my husband and I spend a lot of time down south and in central Otago, which is probably about a 5-hour drive in the South Island of New Zealand. And there's some beautiful places there that we spend a lot of time. And a few of these colourways that I've dyed, I've taken inspiration from some of those places. So they're the names that I've used. And there's a gorge that we drive by every time we go down there. And it's called Roaring Meg. And you've just got beautiful turquoises and blues and that in the river. But then you've also got the rocks from the gorge. And that's why I've called this one Roaring Meg. So, and it's also on the sock base. So that's where I got the inspiration for this colour. Kind of like it's blues and greys and taupey colours. But that, I'm pretty sure by the time I see you on my next podcast, will also be a whip. Those two new cast-ons. In the beginning of the year, I shared with you that I have lots and lots of patterns. I've purchased over the last few years lots and lots of patterns, and I've got big folders full because I'm a bit old school where I still like to print out my patterns, and I love a paper copy. Although I don't knit off a paper copy, I actually knit off my iPad, but I have them all in folders. And so I kind of made a bit of a New Year's resolution that I wasn't going to purchase many patterns this year because I have so many. And since I saw you last, I have not purchased one pattern. So far I'm doing really good. I don't know how long it's going to last, but what I plan on doing is going through my folders and bringing some of those patterns out, because every pattern that I've purchased it because I've loved it. So I really need to knit some of those patterns. So the point I'm trying to get to here is I haven't spent much time on Ravelry. Now, normally on my podcast, I'll show you a heap of patterns that I found on Ravelry, but I've been trying to exercise a bit of restraint because I know if I get on there, I'm going to buy patterns, but I haven't. But I was watching, one of my favourite podcasts that I watch is Callie and Noelle from Knits and Pieces in Canada. And I was catching up on some of those podcasts in the last couple of days. And they introduced me to a designer, and it's JST Knitwear Design. JST are the initials for her name. And I can't remember her name. But I am going to leave the links below, but I want to show you. So jump onto her website. So it's JST Knitwear Design, and I will leave the link. But Noelle and Callie were wearing these vests, and they're called it's called the Riptide, and I haven't purchased it. I'm going to be able to show you that. So this vest, I just love it. It's got a split hem down the bottom. It's got a bit of detail work down the side, and then this lace panel at the front. Now this vest, for sure, could be worn. I have another photo. Let me, here, photos. I just screenshot, that's the one I wanted to show you. So you can, there's another photo of it there, where she's wearing it, and you can see a lot of that detail. So this is done in a DK. Noelle was wearing one that she had actually done in a fingering weight, but she did a gauge swatch and did the maths and just went up a couple of sizes. But I just loved it. I think you could obviously wear it over a shirt, but I think in our climate, I'd probably even wear that over a t-shirt. But I think it's also fitted enough that you could wear it with nothing under it. But it's a really nice pattern. It's a quick knit because it's got no sleeves. You can wear a longer length or a cropped, more of a cropped version. That one there is like more of a cropped version. You could wear that over like a maxi dress. But yeah, so I haven't bought it, but I wanted to share that with you, and I'm going to leave the links below. When you go onto her website, I went on there yesterday and I subscribed to her newsletter. And when you do that, they send you a confirmation with a link to a free pattern. And the free pattern is a pair of fingerless mitts, and I love fingerless mitts in the winter. So you do get a free pattern just by going on and subscribing to her newsletter. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, so Noelle and Kelly did an interview with her, and she does a fair bit of brioche. And she had a beanie that both Noelle and Kelly had knitted, and it was a brioche beanie. And I've talked about this before. I'm trying to get into brioche, and I'm trying to just do a bit so I get better at it. And I love it, and I love challenging myself, but I'm a very beginner brioche knitter. Now, this beanie that she has, she does say that it's definitely for a beginner, for an absolute brioche virgin. This is the pattern suitable. But when you go onto her website, there's a link to tutorials, and she has so many tutorials on how to do every technique. So if you if you just want to learn some new techniques, or go on and check her out. She's based in America. I'm pretty sure she was American based, not Canadian based. But so yeah, that's all I have to talk about with new patterns, because I haven't bought any. I am going to talk a little bit about my dye-in and a shop update. So I hope you stay with me to hear what I've got to say about that. If it's not, if it doesn't interest you and you want to leave now, I will say now, thank you for sharing your time with me. And please subscribe and give the thumbs up. And now I'm going to talk about my shop update. Okay, so today's the 2nd of February, but on Tuesday, the 6th of February is New Zealand. It's our national day, and it's Waitangi Day, and it's the celebration of New Zealand. There's a lot more meaning behind Waitangi, which I won't go into, but it is New Zealand's national day, and it's a public holiday. And what I wanted to say is, I've never done this before, but I'm having a 20% off store-wide for 24 hours. So the 24 hours of Waitangi Day, you will get 20% off everything. So I just thought, if you're watching before the 6th of February, mark that date in your calendar, and that discount will calculate at checkout. So yeah, 20% off store wide. Now, late last year, I decided that I was going to do some dyeing, and the reason for that is because I have a shop, and I've been purchasing yarn off other indie dyers, and I thought, what's crazy? I can do this. But me being me, I don't do anything by halves. I go in like guns a-blazing. So before Christmas, I set myself up an area in my house that has become my dye studio. and I purchased lots of dyes, probably about 30 colours. And what I've been doing is, I'll show you this photo so you can see what I've been doing. I did up a whole lot of mini skeins and I have been dyeing them. And this here is my board. It's basically a colour reference. So what I wanted to know is that colour in that little pottle, what colour it's going to produce. So I've actually got like a reference. So I've been really busy in the last couple of weeks dyeing up all these minis. Just one of each. And they're really just for my reference board. And I've loved it. I found it's really quite addictive. So with all of those, what I want to do now is produce colours and colour waves that I can sell in my shop and recipes that I can reproduce that colour. And like I said, I'm going to have a couple of ranges named after things that inspire me, and they're going to be New Zealand names. A lot of the names I've chosen are going to be high country Merino sheep stations, like Northburn and Bannockburn, and they're just places that I love to visit. So in case you're wondering where the names are coming from, they're places that I either drive by, I stop at, or I visit regularly when my husband and I do road trips. So the other thing, it's been ordered and I haven't got it yet, but I've done a big custom order of base. And the main base that I'm going to start off with is a sock yarn. And it is a New Zealand Merino with 20% nylon. And it's produced here in New Zealand. So it's supporting the New Zealand wool industry, which I'm quite happy about. I won't be importing yarn. It is going to be all from New Zealand. So the first one, this is on my website, and this is on a sock base, and it's the one I showed you before called Roaring Meg, and that's it there, and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. So that one's Roaring Meg. This one I called lupins in summer. So lupins here in New Zealand are actually an obnoxious weed. And I'm not sure if they're in the North Island, but you see them all down the South Island in summer along the roadside. And it's really quite funny because as locals, we know that it's an obnoxious weed. But you see busloads of tourists pulled up on the side of the road taking photos of these flowers, and they're pinks and purples. And they really are quite stunning to look at, but they are a weed. But they would probably be the most photographed weed, I wouldn't say the world, but definitely in New Zealand. And I myself, if we pull over, I'll often take photos of the lupins. So that's where I got the inspiration for this. And it's really just pinks and purples. There is a wee little splash, if you can see it, of yellow in there. You can't see it in there. But yeah, this one's called Lupins in Summer, and it's pinks and purples. This one here I absolutely love as well, and it's called Northburn. And Northburn is a high country sheep station, merino station, and we get to stay there once a year and get to camp up actually on Northburn station. And my husband runs 100 miles up and down hills on this big high country station. And we've been going there every year for about 6 years, and it's a highlight for me, that last weekend in March. And the other funny thing about Northburn is it's always the last weekend of March. It always falls on my birthday. So I have spent probably the last 6 years, I've spent my birthday at Northburn. So it does mean a lot to me. But it's dry and it's rugged and it's rustic, and I just love it. And that's why I called this one Northburn, because it is very earthy, a lot of earthy colours. So that's it there. So that one's called Northburn. And this one was the last one I did, and I've named it Castle Rock, which is also something that I drive by all the time. But you can see here, there's a lot of sort of blues and greys, but then the browns. I have actually put on this, there's, I'm just going to show up, there's little speckles of, might be able to see it, they're little speckles of orange. So I'm really having fun playing with these, and yeah, I hope to have a range that I will reproduce and new ones. So that's my new venture, and they're the 4 ones that I've done so far. Plus, like I said, I did do a couple on a merino base, which gives me a completely different colour. But that's my dyeing venture, and I hope to get better. So check out my website. The other thing I wanted to share with you, and it is a shop update. So with a lot of my indie dyed yarn that I get, and a lot that I will be producing, I knit up swatches like these. And this is so when people come to my shop, or if I go to a yarn festival, you kind of get a bit of an idea of how these indie dyed yarns are going to knit up. So, but the problem is when I do this, I break into a full skein, and I'm left with a ball of wool that's generally, instead of 100 grams, it's probably about 95 grams. And instead of being 400 meters, it's probably about 370 or 380 meters. But I end up with all these balls of wool that I haven't knitted. So what I have done is I've actually wrapped them up. And it's not until you open it that you know what yarn it is. They're nearly all sock yarn bases. Some of them aren't sock. Some of them are on a high twist merino. But they fall short of the full 100 grams. And they have already been caked. So that's done for you. But I'm going to list these on my shop as a lucky dip, like a mystery yarn. And I'm going to do them for $20, which is really cheap because most of them sell between $32 and $40. So if you are wanting a 1 skein, just short of 1 skein, lucky tip, I am going to put those on my website later today. But they're a complete mystery. You won't know what you get until you get them home. And oh, that's what I was going to say. These are really good for 1 skein shawls. So I might actually include the pattern. Let me see if I can get my hands on one. I've shown you a lot this shawl that I just absolutely love. I have the pattern here on a postcard. So I will include that pattern with those lucky dips. I know a lot of my customers already have these because I have been giving them away for a while. But what I was going to say with these, they're really good for 1 skein projects, even for socks. So that was the other thing I wanted to share with you about my shop. I'll show you this as well, just so you know. I don't do anything by halves. I showed you my wall with all my mini skeins, but I've also done all these reference cards. So for each mini skein, I've taken some of the yarn, and I've put them on cards with the dye stock percentages and the technique that I used, and the base that I used. So I've got those as my references as well. So I'm actually quite proud of myself, because it's one of those things where there's no manual or instructions. You've basically just got to jump in and feel the fear and do it anyway. So I'm really quite thrilled. I have had a couple of people that have given me some really good tips and advice. Most of it I have researched myself. I spent several months researching and watching a whole lot of YouTube and podcasts about other dyers and techniques that they use. I signed up and did a couple of tutorial sort of classes online. So yeah, watch this space. I hope I hope you like what I produce. I will use my social media, my Instagram and my Facebook to share new colours with you as they become available. And I probably really won't start producing much for a few months, because the custom order that I have done, won't be available for about another 3 months. It's quite a big turnaround time from the time you order it. And so yeah, it's a work in progress. So that's what I've been doing with my spare time. What I really hope is that I get more knitting done. I was going to say I hope the weather cools down, but I actually don't. I actually love summer. Today is a lot cooler, so we're going to have a couple of days at around 22 degrees, but then next week we've got another spell of 30, 32, sort of between 28 and 32 degrees. So we've got another hot spell coming, and then I am heading away for a week as well, down to my favourite place, down central. So yeah, I've got a lot on the go. I feel like I haven't talked much about knitting this podcast, and I'm sorry about that. I'm not really sorry. I did just want to come on and catch up, because I know if I go too long, people wonder where I am and what I've been doing. It was like, Lisa, are you still there? So I did want to pop on and say hello and just share with you what's been going on. The top's moving. And that's about all I've got. I think I've covered everything. Oh, I think I showed you these before, but they just keep jumping out at me. So if you're tempted to shop on Tuesday for my 20% off, I still have quite a range of these leather notion pouches. And these are the colours that keep jumping out at me. They are just gorgeous. I use one of these and they hold everything. Everything that I need to throw in my knitting bag to go off knitting, these hold, and they're just gorgeous. They're handmade. But the other thing was these leather shawl cuffs. I still have quite a selection of those. And these are also, I love these. So I don't wear a lot of shawls, but when you've got a shawl on and you're busy and you're shopping or you're in and out of your car, these help secure it, but they're also quite decorative. But you just wrap that around your shawl and it keeps it in place. So they're called, on my website, they're called shawl cuffs. And these are called leather notion pouches. I think that's all I've got to talk about. I really do thank you if you've shared this last, it's probably close to an hour. I probably haven't even, some of my podcasts get close to 2 hours, and I don't even know if I've been able to fill 1 hour today. But like I said, I wanted to jump on and say hello. And I'm going to go off and I'm probably going to cast on that tank, that 9 p.m. tank. I think that's my plan this afternoon. I think I'll leave this now for a few more days. I have done a lot of work on this in the last week. But I'll probably put that aside and cast something new on. So I hope wherever you are in the world, you're getting lots of knitting done. I know that if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you're probably sitting in front of a fire with a hot chocolate. We're wearing shorts and tank tops over here, debating whether to have the air conditioner going or not. But thank you for joining me. I will podcast again in 2 to 3 weeks, and hopefully I have a bit more content to share with you. So as always, please subscribe, please give me the thumbs up, and stay happy, stay healthy, and I hope you get lots of knitting done. Bye for now.